Part 119. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1181. If Chen Tianqiao hadn't come so fast, the wood incarnation would have put away Sun Qiniang and used the wood escape technique. On the way here, he found that both sides of the mountain road were full of spiritual herbs. With his current attainments in the wood escape technique, he still had some hope of escaping. But the problem was that Chen Tianqiao was so close to them as soon as he appeared. The wood incarnation didn't dare to take the risk. But what he didn't expect was that Sun Qiniang actually dared to compete with Chen Tianqiao. "Little girl, you are very good," Chen Tianqiao raised his eyebrows and said, "You are the sword phoenix who has been in the limelight recently, right? It just so happens that I have a Fengguo sword, which is made of the fire phoenix spirit as the sword spirit. Let's see how your swordsmanship is." After that, Chen Tianqiao stretched out his hand and a fiery red light immediately appeared in his hand. The wood incarnation's pupils shrank. It was the Fengguo sword that the Phoenix Queen took away when she desperately escaped. The wood incarnation couldn't be more familiar. Phoenix Wu sword. Sun Qiniang was not afraid at all, and even had a look of joy in her eyes. The reason why she discovered the danger before the wood incarnation was not because of how strong her Yuan Shen was. But her sword Phoenix body felt the Phoenix Wu sword, and even felt a trace of Phoenix fire power from the Phoenix Queen's residual soul. Sun Qiniang was a vigilant person. She had traveled a lot in the mortal world and the spirit world alone. Without thinking carefully, she knew that there must be an opponent, so she reminded the wood incarnation. But she didn't expect that the one who came would be the tribulation crossing stage. However, thinking that she also had a trump card, she was naturally not afraid. She even thought of the Phoenix Wu sword. "Yes, it's the Phoenix Wu sword." Chen Tianqiao smiled faintly. Although he was not a sword cultivator, he also knew the great way of the sword, and he needed to be tempered by the opponent to get a deeper understanding. Naturally, he would not underestimate Sun Qiniang's fighting spirit. Just imagine, in the entire spirit world, who dares to compete with Chen Tianqiao? For him, this is a rare opportunity. "Little girl, come on." As soon as the voice fell, Chen Tianqiao's breath was restrained, but he did not suppress it to the Mahayana stage as Sun Qiniang requested, but directly suppressed it to the God transformation stage. Exactly the same as Sun Qiniang. Interesting. Sun Qiniang raised the corner of her mouth, revealing a beautiful smile, and then she danced a sword flower, and thrust the wind and thunder dragon sword forward. Clang! Ang! For a moment, the dragon and the phoenix sang together. The dragon roar came from the wind and thunder dragon sword. The phoenix cry was naturally the power of the phoenix pearl in Sun Qiniang's body. "Little girl, not bad." A strange color flashed in Chen Tianqiao's eyes, no wonder there was the name of the sword phoenix. In a pure sword move, Chen Tianqiao did not dare to neglect it. Facing Sun Qiniang's aggressive attack, he also raised his sword to meet it. Dang! The two swords collided, and the metal and iron clashed, making an extremely heavy sound. Almost at the same moment, Sun Qiniang and Chen Tianqiao each took a step back, and after a little strength on their knees, they shot out again. Tit for tat. "Senior, if it's just a competition like this, it's too boring. Why not add some prizes?" Sun Qiniang's wind and thunder dragon sword touched it and left immediately, and her figure was like a dancing fire butterfly, and she flashed nimbly, and she laughed out loud. "Prize. Your sword is not bad." Chen Tianqiao smiled slightly, backhanded a sword, and stabbed Sun Qiniang's throat, and said like this. "This Fengguo sword is not bad either." Deal. Chen Tianqiao was very straightforward. It is true that the Fengguo sword was refined by a peerless great man with a fire phoenix as the spirit and a phoenix as the body, but the wind and thunder dragon sword is not inferior at all. The sword embryo is refined with the sword body, and the sword spirit is the soul of a real dragon. The two mythical beasts of dragon and phoenix are already on par, and at this time, the two swords are facing each other, and there is even more intention to compete with each other. Purely using the sword art, Sun Qiniang and Chen Tianqiao fought evenly. Although Sun Qiniang was a sword body, she had a deep understanding of the sword art, and each move and sword was extremely exquisite. But Chen Tianqiao was not a pushover either. After all, he was a great man in the tribulation period. Although his sword moves were simple, they always had unexpected uses. The two of them were fighting hard and were in high spirits, but the wood incarnation was restless. No matter who won, it seemed that it was not a good thing for him. Unless it was a draw. He had dealt with Chen Tianqiao before and knew that this person was very cunning. Being able to interact with the Zhang Dao Master and the Dragon Demon King was enough to explain everything. Sun Qiniang's character was probably not a little bit worse than theirs. He couldn't help but make the worst plan, run. Of course, it was after the sword game was over. Then, set up the formation first. There are still many mid-grade spirit stones in the isolated island of the wood incarnation. Although he doesn't know whether he can deal with the tribulation stage, he can't feel at ease without making preparations in advance. But before he can take out the spirit stone, a relaxed voice suddenly came from the side. "You can't run away." The wood incarnation was startled and quickly turned his head to look in the direction of the voice, and saw a young man. However, the look in this man's eyes was somewhat inconsistent with his overly young face. "Who are you?" the wood incarnation said while suppressing the panic in his heart. Although he was just an incarnation, he didn't notice the visitor, which was enough to show that he was above the spiritual transformation stage. But it happened. This man's aura seemed to be nothingness. "Me? I'm a guest of the Jiden sect, just like you." The man chuckled, thought for a while, and said, "Fellow Daoist Zhu, my surname is Ji." It turns out to be fellow Daoist Ji Mujiajia was not surprised that the other party knew his last name. Seeing the other party's kindness, he felt a little more relaxed. After handing over his hand, he said, "Fellow Daoist Ji is also here to express condolences to Master Yao." The man made a nasal sound, pointed at the two people who were competing with each other and said, "Did you see that your female companion was going to lose, so you were thinking of preparing a backup plan?" Mujiwa quickly denied it and said, "Fellow Daoist Ji has misunderstood. Senior Chen across from me is a great tribulation master." Zhu accidentally offended him back then. If Senior Chen wins, this junior will naturally be afraid. But if Qiniang wins, this junior will. I'm even more afraid that Senior Chen will become angry. I wish fellow Taoist to be careful." The man's eyes turned into a smile as he said, "It doesn't matter, no one in the Jidan sect dares to make trouble here, and it is impossible to cause trouble, even if he is in the period of transcending tribulation." "Why?" Mujiawa was slightly startled, and then said, "Could it be that the Jidan sect also has someone who can transcend tribulations and take action?" "That's not true," the man smiled and shook his head, saying, "Jidan sect has a profound foundation. Even without the mountain protecting formation, it can still stand in the spiritual world for so many years. Chen Tian, Senior Chen has to think carefully if he wants to take action. His background is not enough." Mujiajia did not know which sect Chen Tianqiao came from. But hearing that the man was so confident, he was still doubtful. The man was not angry, he still smiled and said relaxedly, "Friend Zhu, in fact, you don't have to think too much. Just imagine, with your ability at this time, if Senior Chen wanted to attack you, would you be able to escape?" Mujiawa's face suddenly darkened, and then he heard the other party continue, "What's more, if Senior Chen can do anything to you, why would he show you the swordsmanship here?" Performance. Mujiawa opened his mouth. This fellow Daoist Ji is really funny when he talks. But, are you sure you won't annoy the other person? But then I thought about it, if Chen Tianqiao didn't dare to kill people here, would he really let them have their say? Don't you need to be so panicked? That's right, the man seemed to be able to feel the emotional changes in the wooden avatar. Instead, he pointed to a pavilion not far away and said, "Sit over there." What if Senior Chen or your female companion can't hold back the momentum? If I hurt you by mistake, there's no guarantee. Mujiawa suddenly realized that the other party was reminding him, so he stretched out his hand to guide him. "Please. Please." The two walked quickly to the pavilion and sat opposite each other, facing Sun Qiniang and Chen Tianqiao in the open space. They have fought hundreds of tricks, and they are still neck and neck. "Best wishes, fellow Taoist, it's our first time meeting you, and I don't have any gifts to give you. How about I give you a message?" As soon as Mujiajia sat down, the man spoke unexpectedly. Mujiyi was speechless, then smiled and said, "Fellow Daoist Ji, please speak." He originally thought that the other party was giving some information about the Jidan sect or Chen Tianqiao, but he never thought that what he said was shocking. "If you go into the Ascension secret realm, you will encounter your true body." At this time, Mujiajia seemed to be sitting on a self-destruction array, causing him to jump up suddenly, with a look of disbelief on his face, and he exclaimed, "What did you say?" "Ji Mao said that your body will get out of trouble, and then he will go to the ascending immortal secret realm. If you go to the ascending immortal secret realm, you will meet him." You, how did you know?" Wooden Avatar was completely dumbfounded. If it were said that he had encountered the true body and that they would meet up in the secret realm of ascension, then that would still be acceptable. But the other party's implicit meaning means that his body is not out of trouble yet. According to his own guess, the main body should be trapped in the immortal mansion. The reason is unknown. Because although the immortal mansion is small, whether it is the great universe artifact immortal or the great universe world, there are still many places that he does not know about. Thinking of Nujiao's changes, Mujiajia has no clue at all. But the other party is so determined. "Fellow Taoist Zhu, this is a meeting gift. I wonder if friend Zhu has anything I can give as a return gift? Of course, if you tell me some news that Ji doesn't know, that's fine too." The man's words brought Mujiajia out of his shock. "Fellow Daoist Ji, where did you get this news from?" Mujiajia asked with a trembling voice. He smiled slightly, stretched out his index finger and pointed upward, saying, "The secret of heaven must not be leaked." "Secret? Secret?" Suddenly, Mujiawa was shocked and said in shock, "You are Qin Tianji. I originally thought that Qin Tianji would look like a Taoist old man, wearing a Taoist robe, holding a compass in his hand, and having the spirit of immortality to figure out everything in the world. But who could have imagined that it would look like this? Friend Zhu, you have recognized the wrong person. I am not Qin Tianji." The man shook his head, but was interrupted by Mujiji, "Ancestor Tianji, if I guessed correctly, do you want to tell Zhu that your name is Ji Tianxing?" Qin Tianji was stunned for a moment, then burst out laughing. That's right, that's right. You kid can actually guess what Ji is thinking. And you still call yourself Ji?" Muji Unying frowned and saw Qin Tianji smile slightly. "Actually, my name is Ji Tianxing, but later in order to facilitate walking in the spirit world, I changed my name to Qin Tianji. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills." Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 1182. Then should I call you Senior Ji or Senior Qin? Coming uninvited, Mujiajia doesn't know what the other person wants to do, so he should be polite when he should be polite. After all, Qin Tianji's name was not something people from the Jidan sect talked about. Even Chang Yu told him how powerful Qin Tianji was in front of him. "It's a bit embarrassing to call me like this. You can call me Brother Qin or Brother Tianji." Qin Tianji smiled faintly, but his words shocked Mu Jiahua. What? Seeing Mu's expression, Qin Tianji raised his eyebrows and said, I'll live thousands of years longer than you, right? I don't want you to call me brother. Mu Jiahua smiled bitterly, these thousands of years have been hundreds of generations in the mortal world, but you want me to call you brother? But looking at the other party's reaction, he had no choice but to hand over his hand and shouted awkwardly, Brother Qin. Okay. 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 Qin Tianji smiled heartily, reached out and patted Mu Jiahua's shoulder, and said, Brother Zhu, since you and I are worthy of each other, you won't refuse to do something for me, right? Mu Jiajia knew that the other party had bad intentions, but in this situation, how could he refuse? I would like to, but there is nothing I can do. Brother Tianji, please speak. Looking at the frowning Mu Jiaji, Qin Tianji's smile did not diminish and said, you don't have to be like this. There are countless people in the world and in the entire spiritual world who want to do things for me. They can be queued from here to Juyou go to the land. So, I am still extremely honored. Wooden Avatar laughed at himself. I don't want your help to be in vain, Qin Tianji said with a smile, I can calculate the secrets, but I can't calculate myself. So, if you want to achieve enlightenment and ascend, you need help from others. What does Brother Tianji mean? Without him, Qin Tianji touched his chin and said, I have already told you that your body will meet you in the secret realm of ascension. So, if you need your body to come, with your current situation one incarnation is not enough. Brother Tianji also wants me to go to the secret realm of immortality. After learning that the main body would also go to the secret realm of immortal ascension, Mu Jiahua was debating whether to go or not. Of course, Qin Tianji smiled slightly and said, otherwise, why would I come all the way to you from my Tianji peak? I don't know if you have heard the rumors that the ancestor of Tianji closed the door of death and gained enlightenment. Immortal Avenue. I've heard that several Mahayana disciples said this when I was in Balian sect. Mu Jiahua nodded, deeply convinced. It seems that Qin Tianji really needs his help, otherwise why would he come out? Hey, that's fake. Unexpectedly, Qin Tianji showed a wicked smile. What? Mu Jiahua was dumbfounded. Is this fake? That. I just find it troublesome. I have eaten and used the Jidan sect for thousands of years. If they ask me to tell fortunes, how dare I refuse? Besides the Jidan sect, there are so many great tribulation masters. Come to me for fortune telling, can I still be at peace? Hearing this explanation, Mu Incarnation was extremely speechless. At the same time, he also understood why Qin Tianchun suddenly came out of seclusion and told Jidan sect the exact time when the secret realm of ascension to immortality would be opened in half a year. Everything is waiting for your own body. So, what help does he want from the body? Brother, as long as you agree, when the secret realm of ascension opens, my brother will naturally tell you what to do. These days, you are in Jidan sect, and my brother will protect you. Qin Tianji slapped his chest loudly. Mu Jiahua narrowed his eyes, then pointed at Chen Tianxiao, who was competing with Sun Qiniang in swordsmanship, and said, then you killed him. Qin Tianji's face was filled with disbelief. He stared at Mu Jiajia and said, did you make a mistake? You asked me to kill Chen Tianxiao. I said, I have a grudge against Chen Tianxiao. Aren't you protecting me? We are brothers, so we can't let it go, right? Naturally, he will not fall behind in the skill of turning wood into a snake and following it with a stick. Hey Zuyun, do you think of me as a thug? Qin Tianji suddenly became angry and said, I'm protecting you, but I'm not helping you kill people. Don't worry, Chen Tianxiao won't take action against you even though you're still in the stage of becoming a god. Brother Tianji, that's not what you said. You can calculate secrets, but can you calculate people's hearts? How can you know what I did to Chen Tianqiao back then? Don't worry, Chen Tianqiao has no time to care about you. If he wanted to deal with you, he would have done it long ago. Don't you see why he is honing his sword skills? Preparing for the secret realm of ascension. That's right, Qin Tianji nodded, looking like a teachable child, and said, I'm standing next to you, chatting happily. Do you think Chen Tianqiao didn't see it? The secret realm of ascension is about to open, and there is no need for him to risk it. To touch you at the risk of offending me. Then how can you guarantee that he won't attack me in the ascension secret realm? Zuyun, I say you are smart, why can't you react now? All spiritual monks can enter the secret realm of ascension to immortality. In addition to him, there are many secluded people in the tribulation period who will also enter. Why are these people hiding in the world? Most of them are monks who have struggled with me to reach the secret realm of immortality. If they miss it, they will have to wait another 1,000 years. So, who do you think is willing to cause trouble? The same is true for Chen Tianqiao. You can rest assured. Furthermore, although I have never seen your true form, I have calculated that he will be one of the biggest variables in this ascension secret realm. I won't touch you, lest I cause trouble. Hearing this, Mujiawa was convinced. If the true body returns and the tribulation period comes, even if you can't defeat him, at least you won't make it easier for the other party. So, let's just watch the show now. It's rare to see Chen Tianqiao suffer. Seeing that he had convinced Mujiawa, Qin Tianji was very satisfied. In a good mood, he sat back, cocked his head and retreated, watching the two of them come and go leisurely. Mujiawa said, you mean, Chen Tianqiao can't beat Sun Qiniang? In terms of pure swordsmanship, Chen Tianqiao will lose. I'm afraid you don't know how terrifying the sword body is. Not to mention, a person with a sword body holding a sword with a sword body, I don't even dare to predict what sword phoenix will be like in the future. Achievement. Don't you dare to count? Is there anything in this world that you don't dare to count? Mujiawa couldn't believe that Qin Tianji had such a high opinion of Sun Qiniang. There are many people in the world that I dare not count, and Jian Huang is one of them. Mujiawa frowned, but you're counting me out. I'm not counting you, Qin Tianji shook his head and said, I sensed that there would be variables in the secret realm of ascension, so I calculated the secrets about those variables. Counting you? I want to live a few more years. Mujiawa suddenly choked up, thinking that Qin Tianji had forgotten him. The result was calculated from the secret realm. Why, I can't do it, and neither can Qiniang. Mujiawa murmured to himself, if it were him, he would most likely be the one who refined the cosmic glazed mirror. No matter how strong Qin Tianji is, under Huang Mingxing's heavenly way, he can never be counted as a thing in the fairy world. But Sun Qiniang? Could it be related to the 7 phoenix pearls? After all, the 7 phoenix pearls are also collected by the immortal emperor. Zuyun, stop guessing. You are good at everything, but you like to be suspicious, which puts you under pressure for no reason, which in turn causes your cultivation progress to be extremely slow. Just as Mujiawa was struggling in his heart, Qin Tianji suddenly spoke, as if to remind him, but also to instruct him. What does Brother Tianji mean? Cultivation is an easy thing, why should you be so depressed? Taoism is natural, just let it take its course. Tao follows nature. It sounds simple, but how difficult is it to do? Mujiawa smiled bitterly and stopped talking. At this time, Sun Qiniang made a very subtle sword move, passing through the sea of fire that Chen Tianqiao was dancing in, and landed right on his neck. A silver bell-like laughter sounded, full of confidence. Senior Chen, you are defeated. Mujiawa looked around and saw that Chen Tianqiao's face was extremely ugly, which was in sharp contrast to Sun Qiniang. You are worthy of the name of Sword Phoenix. When it comes to sword moves, I am indeed not as good as you. Chen Tianqiao looked extremely solemn. Because according to the previous bet, his Fengwu sword would lose to Sun Qiniang. Senior Chen was ridiculous, but I just took advantage of him. Sun Qiniang said politely, then changed the topic and said, but we have an appointment first. Qiniang thanks Senior Chen for his generosity first. The previous politeness was only for the subsequent rudeness. Sun Qiniang confidently extended her hand to Chen Tianqiao. Jian Huang, I said I would use the sword as a bet, but I didn't say when I would give it to you. Chen Tianqiao lost his momentum, but in the blink of an eye, all the aura of the tribulation stage was released, and his strength had returned to normal. Sun Qiniang was unaware for a moment and was pushed several feet away by the breath. Senior Chen is a mighty master of overcoming tribulations. Do you want to default on your account? After standing still, Sun Qiniang frowned and asked, if the other party really wanted to do this, there was really nothing she could do. How can I, Chen Tianqiao, fool this junior? Chen Tianqiao laughed, and then said, after ascending to the immortal secret realm, you can come to my sect to get this Fengwu sword. Sun Qiniang pursed her lips. The sword had little effect on her, but what she wanted was to rescue the queen among them. Her intuition tells her that Queen Huang can help her achieve great things in the secret realm of ascension. Chen Tianqiao, at this moment, Qin Tianji suddenly flashed, and the next moment he appeared directly opposite Chen Tianqiao. I, Qin Tianji, can't stand people like you the most. If you dare to bet and dare not lose, you should still face Junior. Qin Tianji, are you going to stand up for an outsider? Seeing Qin Tianji's sudden appearance, Chen Tianqiao's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly took a few steps back, his expression becoming solemn. Qin Tianji has a great reputation. If he helps Sun Qiniang, this matter. It's hard to say. Sure enough, before Chen Tianqiao could stand still, Qin Tianji's lazy voice came from his ears, and there was also a warm breath. Bring it here. Before he finished speaking, the Fengwu sword in his hand was grabbed by one hand. Qin Tianji, what do you mean? Chen Tianqiao was furious. The Fengwu sword he finally got was the only spiritual sword he needed to go to the secret realm of immortality. He only had half a year, where could he find a handy sword? It's not interesting. When the road is rough, draw your sword and help. Qin Tianji succeeded in the move, threw the sword to Sun Qiniang with a smile, put his hands on his hips, and said proudly, Chen Tianqiao, if you don't accept it, come and hit me. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1183. Chen Tianqiao's face turned green and white for a while. If it were a head-on battle, even 100 Qin Tianji would not be his opponent. But the problem is, Qin Tianji can figure out his next move. Just like just now, Qin Tianji accurately stood behind him and snatched the sword away just before he could hold it tightly in his hand. This is impossible to fight. Not to mention, Qin Tianji is in Jiden sect. He is the ancestor of Tianji of Jiden sect. Even if he could defeat Qin Tianji, he probably wouldn't be able to walk out of Jiden sect standing upright today. Jidan sect is in charge of the sect with some Mahayana periods, but it does not mean that they do not have the power to overcome tribulations in seclusion. Therefore, this bitter water can only be swallowed in the stomach. Qin Tianji. Chen Tianqiao put down his cruel words, 30 years in Hexi, 30 years in Hedong. Don't let me, Chen Tianqiao, fall into my hands outside. He, no, no. Qin Tianji looked indifferent. Humph, don't think I don't know. You are hiding in Jiden sect because you are just taking advantage of others. No. Then you should never come out, and you can live for more than 30 years. Wrong, wrong. Qin Tianji didn't care, shook his head and said, I mean, you won't live for 30 years. I've done the math, do you believe it or not? Chen Tianqiao's expression changed. Qin Tianji had never missed it. I won't live for 30 years? Then just wait and see if I can live for 30 years. If I live in 30 years, I will come here and wait for you to come out and be beaten. Chen Tianqiao said viciously, then walked away. After a long while, Mu Jianying said in shock, Brother Tianji, you mean, Chen Tianqiao will die within 30 years? No, no, no. Qin Tianji's face became a little more solemn, and he no longer had the previous cynicism, and said, I just calculated that in 30 years, there will no longer be a person like Chen Tianqiao in the spiritual world. Isn't that just death? Wooden Avatar didn't react. It's possible that he has ascended. Qin Tianji's face was full of distress and said, Zuyun, as a brother, whether I will be beaten in 30 years or not depends on you. 30 years later, if Chen Tianqiao becomes an immortal, he will not be able to return to this Jidan section. Come on, no one can protect me. Mu Jiahua's face was full of embarrassment and he had nothing to say. Fortunately, Sun Qiniang came forward with a sword at this time, breaking the calm. Qiniang thanks Senior Qin for helping. Sun Qiniang bowed slightly. Anyone present could probably tell that even someone as powerful as Chen Tianqiao, who was afraid of tribulations, was definitely an ordinary person. Jian Huang is so polite, so polite, so polite. Qin Tianji put away his worries, changed his face to a smile, and even clasped his fists in return. Now Sun Qiniang couldn't be punished. Mu turned around and smiled evilly at Qin Tianji, then said to Sun Qiniang, Qiniang, just like me, just call him Brother Tianji. Although Sun Qiniang is willful, she also feels that this is not appropriate at this time. After all, she has heard people talk about Qin Tianji in Balian section. This is a figure at the level of the ancestor of Jidan sect. You actually called him brother? Unexpectedly, while Sun Qiniang was struggling, Qin Tianji smiled with a smile on his face and shouted, Sister Jian Huang. At this moment, Mu Jiahua only had one sentence in his mind. He had never seen such a shameless person. However, this may be a good thing. In Jidan section, I can really settle down. But Sun Qiniang seemed a little uncomfortable, at a loss, and didn't know how to respond. Mu Jiahua hurriedly came out to smooth things over and said with a smile, Qiniang, why are you panicking? You call Brother Tianji, but he is still superior to you. These words made Qin Tianji immediately displeased. If I hadn't looked at your face and couldn't figure out Sun Qiniang's destiny, why would I have been so humble? Kemu's next words made Qin Tianji shut up immediately. Think about it, you are Ye Yuan's sister. He was Qin Tianji, how could he not know about Ye Yuan? Because Ye Yuan was the first person he didn't dare to count. Moreover, the entire spiritual world knows that Ye Yuan is the son of Ye Yang and Qiu Linjian. Seeing Qin Tianji, who didn't look very good, Mu Jiahua felt so happy. He didn't expect to find Sun Qiniang again. Tianji Peak. Brother Zhu, Sister Jian Huang, there is nothing to entertain here as a brother, you can do whatever you want, just treat this place as your own home. The incarnation of Mu could be described as a fox pretending to be a tiger. He sat carelessly on Qin Tianji's stone bed with one leg hanging on the edge of the bed. He looked so arrogant that Qin Tianji gritted his teeth with hatred. But he couldn't help it. Even a fool can see that Sun Qiniang is extremely protective of Zuyun. And he was afraid of Sun Qiniang. To be precise, it was fear of Ye Yuan behind Sun Qiniang. Based on his understanding of Ye Yuan, he is also a person who protects his shortcomings. He didn't believe that Sun Qiniang would not be able to contact Ye Yuan's talisman and magic weapon when she came out alone. Otherwise, how would Sun Qiniang dare to fight against Chen Tianqiao? Brother Tianji, Sun Qinyang just took a casual sip of tea, then raised her head and said, I wonder if there is a secluded place in Tianji Peak. I want to do something. Yes, of course. The cave where I retreat is not far from this house. Qin Tianji quickly stood up and personally guided Sun Qinyang. Not only that, he also asked with concern, Sister Jian Huang, are you here for the phoenix in Fengguo sword? Brother Tianji, did you calculate this too? Sun Qinyang was slightly startled, then relieved. Not really. Qin Tianji touched his nose and thought to himself, I am at least in the tribulation crossing stage. If I can't even feel the breath of the true phoenix, wouldn't I be laughed at? However, I can help Sister Jian Huang to tell a fortune. When Sun Qinyang heard that Qin Tianji took the initiative to tell fortunes, she naturally agreed. Mu Huashan had never seen it before, so she jumped up and said with a smile, Brother Tianji, tell it quickly. Qin Tianji glared at him, but Mu Huashan ignored him. Seeing Sun Qinyang's expectant eyes, he had to give up. Sister Jian Huang, give me this Fengguo sword first. After taking the Fengguo sword from Sun Qinyang, Qin Tianji closed his eyes and felt it carefully, then handed the sword back, casually took out a few spiritual stones from his arms, and threw them casually on the open space in the house. It was even more casual than Zhu Yun's arrangement of the formation. Can this be calculated? Mu Huashan and Sun Qinyang stared at each other. A moment. The divination is good, but Sister Jian Huang needs a helper to restore the soul of the Phoenix Queen. The wooden incarnation stepped forward and said, Helper, isn't there a ready-made one? You. Qin Tianji said with a look of disdain, if you are the original body, it's okay, but forget about this incarnation. Qin Tianji, do you look down on me? The wooden incarnation was immediately furious. It's not that I look down on you, Qin Tianji shook his head and said, it's just that you are not suitable. Besides, many people in the Jidan sect are suitable, except you and me. Is there a condition for this helper? The wooden incarnation believed Qin Tianji's words a little, because he said he couldn't do it himself. Of course, Phoenix Nirvana, what do you say is needed? Qin Tianji said unhappily, and the wooden incarnation and Sun Qinyang shouted a word in unison, fire. The Jidan sect naturally did not lack fire, but the wooden incarnation was a little confused. Did they need a fire vein, or was the spiritual fire of a cultivator enough? After all, Qin Tianji said he needed help. Yes, I'll call someone to help later. Sister Jian Huang just needs to extract the Queen Phoenix's spirit. Sun Qinyang said, Brother Tianji, can't I use the Phoenix fire myself? No, Qin Tianji said immediately, your Phoenix fire is extraordinary. I'm afraid it will swallow the Queen Phoenix's spirit directly. Wood Incarnation suddenly realized that Sun Qinyang's Phoenix fire naturally came from the 7 Phoenix pearls. After Qin Tianji brought the 2 to his retreat cave, he left, saying that he was going to find help. Zhu Yun, is my brother Yuan so powerful? Sun Qinyang asked curiously, stroking the Fengguo sword. She saw with her own eyes how quickly Qin Tianji's face changed. Big, of course big, the wood incarnation curled his lips unhappily, and said, his father and mother are now in the fairy world, and their status is extraordinary, what do you think? In the fairy world? Sun Qinyang was shocked, she only knew that Ye Yuan was powerful, but she didn't know how powerful. Yes, didn't he tell you? No. Sun Qinyang shook her head and said, I thought Brother Yuan was a hidden great power, just waiting for his lover to come up from the mortal world. The wood incarnation said speechlessly, he is a lovesick man, but it's a pity that I suffered. At that time, I was tricked by him to help, and then he kicked me to the mortal world. He said that I should help him find his lover. Sun Qinyang was stunned, and then giggled, but she had never heard of Zhu Yun suffering so much. Looking at Sun Qinyang who was gloating over the misfortune, Mu Huashan could only helplessly say, "You can still laugh, I'm so miserable. By the way, are you planning to go to the Ascension Secret Realm? How about we go together at that time?" When he was in Balian sect, he saw that Sun Qiniang had this intention, but at that time he just wanted to stay quietly in Jiden sect, practice while waiting for news from his original body. As a result, Qin Tianji told him that his original body would also be in the Ascension Secret Realm. That meant he had to go. "Of course we'll go together," Sun Qiniang glared at Mu Huashan and said, "If you don't go with me, do you want to go alone? Just because you're a coward. If you call me a coward again, I'll turn my face against you." Mu Huashan stood up with a bang and glared at Sun Qiniang. Sun Qiniang laughed and said, "You can't scare me. I have brother Yuan to help me, how dare you fight me?" Mu Huashan was furious and said angrily, "If Yuan dares to come, I will beat his head." After the voice fell, a voice sounded faintly from outside the cave. "Zuyun, I'm here now, try to hit me." The voice came before the person entered. Mu Huashan was shocked and hurriedly tried to find a corner to hide, but he never thought that a dark iron hammer with purple lightning rushed in from outside the cave. "Yuan, you dare." Mu Huashan was furious, but his figure was in a mess. Fortunately, the iron hammer just circled above his head and fell to the ground. Then, two figures walked in from outside the cave lightly. It was Yuan and Lu Ruyan. "I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills." Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1184. Zhu Xian, long time no see. Lu Ruyan smiled and said to the wooden body, "Elder Lu is too polite." Mu Jiahua touched the back of his head, but he was not angry at Lu Ruyan. After being surprised for a while, Sun Qiniang also said ecstatically, "Brother Yuan, why are you also in Jiden sect? Also, is this my sister-in-law?" Yuan laughed, looked at Lu Ruyan's eyes as tender as water, and then said, "I brought Yanner all the way from the northern icefield. In addition to taking her to appreciate the scenery of the spiritual world, I also came to Jidanzong to collect some pills. I discovered it when you were competing with Chen Tianxiao. Brother Yuan, do you also want to go to the immortal secret realm?" Sun Qiniang beamed with joy. She knew Yuan's identity from Mu Jiajia. If she went together, she would gain a lot. Unexpectedly, Yuan shook his head and said, "I advise you not to go. The secret realm of the immortal is not as simple as you think." When Zuyun followed Yuan to the northern icefield, Yuan mentioned it, which was why Mu Jiahua was not willing to go at first. Of course, there is also a relationship where the demon moon sect can use the power of the moon. "Yuan, is the secret realm of immortality also a conspiracy of the immortal world?" "There are no outsiders here," So Mu Incarnation asked in a deep voice. "So, but at least it's not a conspiracy against ordinary cultivators." Yuan said calmly, "Of course, if you go in and be careful, you might gain something. But Qiniang, in that secret realm, my brother can't help you." "This." Sun Qiniang looked at Zuyun and saw that his eyes did not change, so she simply said, "Brother Yuan, I know it well." "That's good." Yuan smiled again and said to Mu Jiajia, "Zuyun, I haven't thanked you yet for helping me find Yanner." "Stop doing this," Mu turned his lips and said, "If you want to thank me, how can you thank me? Bring me something substantial." "This." Yuan was suddenly embarrassed. He did have a lot of good things, but Zuyun couldn't use them. After thinking about it, he said, "This is Qin Tianji's retreat cave, right? Although he doesn't have good things, you let him help a lot counting some treasures, there may be unexpected gains." Mu Jiahua's eyes suddenly lit up, and he had some understanding of Qin Tianji's fortune-telling skills. It can be seen that everyone can calculate the situation of the main body at this time. After thinking for a moment, he raised his eyebrows and said, "Are you leaving?" That's almost it, Ye Yuan said with a smile. I stayed in the lower world mainly for two things. One is the five elements Sanren, and the other is looking for Yan'er. Now that both things have been completed, I will choose a day to ascend. Can you choose a good day for your ascension? Mujiajia's face was full of disbelief. Of course, you don't want to see who I am. Ye Yuan looked proud and said, if it weren't for waiting for Yan'er, I would have left with those old friends of my father. Now, I want to take Yan'er back to my home, and then stay there for some time in time, let Yan'er cultivate to several realms. My family. Mujiawa was surprised. You want to go back to the East Mortal realm? Huh? Do you know Yejia village? Of course, I've been there before. Mujiawa said, don't say I've been there, Qiniang has been there too. Sun Qiniang was hunted down by the monks of the Fire Dragon sect, and was later brought to Yejia village by Aniao. Menghua and Yesuanhua were both there at that time. Then if you have time, come and sit in Yejia village. If I'm still here, I can talk to you at night. What can I talk about with you? Mujiawa was not polite, waved his hand and said, if you have nothing to do, leave quickly, I will be angry just looking at you. Ye Yuan was not angry, he walked up to Sun Qiniang with a smile, glanced at the Fengwu sword in her hand, and said with a smile, Sister Qi, I have to say goodbye to you, maybe the next time I see you again, it will be in the fairy world. As a brother, I have nothing to give you. I can only help you when I say goodbye. After that, he stretched out his hand and the hammer suddenly flew up. At the same time, the Fengwu sword also flew away. A hammer and a sword, dancing wildly out of thin air, but every breath of time, the hammer will hit the Fengwu sword. Clang! 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 Every time it is smashed, Fengwu sword will reveal a flame. By the time Ye Yuan finished smashing, he was already out of breath. After wiping his sweat, Ye Yuan returned the phoenix sword to Sun Qiniang's hands and said, there is a phoenix queen spirit inside. I have used the power of thunder to force it out of the sword body, and I have used the thunder to force it out of the sword protect her temporarily. When the time comes, you only need to have the nirvana of spiritual fire, and this phoenix queen will not only be able to save her life, but she will also be able to grow again and be used by you. Ye Yuan didn't say a word. It was his thunder immortal hammer that knocked all of Queen Wang's intelligence away. And when Sun Qiniang saves the spirit again, the queen will naturally recognize Sun Qiniang as her master and become the most loyal pet. Brother Yuan, are you really going to leave? Sun Qiniang took the sword and her eyes couldn't help but turn red. There is no banquet in the world. Seventh sister, as brother and sister-in-law, will be waiting for you in the fairy world. With your talent and determination, you will definitely be able to come to the fairy world. Ye Yuan spoke very highly of Sun Qiniang. Also, Sun Qiniang, who was dying at that time, was saved by him. You must know that this will be extremely painful, and it is impossible for ordinary people to bear it. Brother Yuan. Sun Qiniang stopped the two of them and said, the immortal world must be extremely vast. Where can I find you? Ye Yuan smiled slightly and said, don't you have the talisman I gave you? This talisman is actually an immortal talisman. After you activate it in the immortal world, you will naturally be able to contact my brother. After saying this time, Ye Yuan and Lu Ruyan disappeared instantly. I wish you immortality, the road reaches the sky, let's each go our separate ways today. Ruyan also hopes to see you in the immortal world. The sound is not loud, but it keeps lingering in the cave. After a long time, Qin Tianji came back. Outside the cave, a fat monk was at a loss and looked very nervous. Ye Yuan is gone. As soon as he entered the cave, Qin Tianji said cautiously. Brother Tianji knows. Mujiawa raised his eyebrows. I didn't know it at first, but later I found out that there is no identical hammer in the world. Brother Tianji is really awesome, Mu turned into a sly smile. He vaguely guessed that Qin Tianji was looking for someone to temporarily avoid meeting Ye Yuan, right? But looking at the fat man outside, he does have a strong firework aura. It is obvious that the spiritual fire he carries is not weak, at least it is at the level of earth fire. I'm in shape, don't laugh at me anymore. Ye Yuan is so secretive that he can kill even the 5 elements Sanjiao with a hammer, and even the immortal platform is dry and cracked. Do you think I won't be afraid? When he saw Mu Jiajia, he kept laughing at him, so Qin Tianji simply recognized him openly. Seeing this, Mu Jianying had nothing to say, but turned slightly sideways, allowing Sun Qiniang, who was holding the Fengwu sword, to talk directly to Qin Tianji. Sword Phoenix, there may be a mutation coming later. No matter what, you are not allowed to use your own Phoenix fire. Remember? Qin Tianji said with a solemn expression. Nature knows. Then let's get started. Qin Tianji waved his hand, and the fat monk outside rolled into the cave like a ball. Facing Qin Tianji, the ancestor of Jiden sect who was respected by thousands of people, he was extremely careful. Should I go outside to guard? Wooden Avatar took the initiative and said. That's good, so that no one comes over and disturbs Jian Huang and I. Qin Tianji happily agreed. His cave was not big, and he didn't know what kind of noise would be caused later. The fewer people there are, the better. Especially the wooden incarnation really can't be of much help. Magia shrugged and walked out of the cave, allowing Qin Tianji to place a ban on the cave. He knew that Qin Tianji didn't dare to have any thoughts, at least not now. Simply, he walked to the edge of the cliff and looked at the entire Jiden Mountains. This is a mountain range that is independent of Tianweishan. Even if the wooden incarnation does not use the void-breaking spiritual eye technique, it can be recognized at a glance. Could it be that this Jidan sect really came from somewhere else? Wooden Avatar sat down on the edge of the cliff. This is the only platform on Tianji Peak. Sitting here, you can see Jiden Peak in the distance. In comparison, Tianji Peak is still slightly lower. There's something wrong about it? I wonder if you can sit on Jiden Peak and look at the entire mountain range, and you might make some unexpected discoveries. Mu Jiahua muttered in his heart, but suddenly he remembered that Sun Qiniang was laughing at him and liked to think about everything. Isn't this tiring? Suddenly, he touched his chin, am I really like this? Withdrawing his gaze, he subconsciously used the void-breaking spiritual eye technique. Under the cliff, there is thick cloud and mist, and many peaks are blocked. It is extremely difficult to see clearly with the naked eye. But with the Shaoxing Lingjingju, it's different. Once you see the bottom, you can't tell where the peaks are. And his expression also changed. It seems, it's also a natural formation? And it looks a bit familiar. He racked his brains, but couldn't think of anything. Perhaps, when you go to Jiden sect, you can have a panoramic view of the mountains and discover what kind of formation this Jiden mountain range is. Maybe, you can also find out why Jiden sect calls it Kunlun. Mu Jiahua retracted his thoughts, turned around and walked to the other side of the platform without thinking too much. Tianji Peak is located on the edge of the Jiden Mountains. He also used the void-breaking spiritual eye technique to look out of the mountains and saw a dozen very familiar figures in a valley. This is. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1185. Mu Jiahua looked back, and within the cave, he could faintly feel several rays of fire. There are 2 phoenix fires, one strong and one weak, presumably Sun Qiniang's phoenix fire and the phoenix queen's essence. In addition, there is naturally the original fire power of Fengui's sword and the spiritual fire of the fat monk. Qin Tianji knows how to find people. This fat man's spiritual fire is unique. He seems to have reached the peak of earth fire. Mujiawa murmured and continued to look towards the valley on that side. The demon kings of the 11 major demon clans are all here. That's right, the valley he saw with the Pakuling Jingju was the Medicine King Valley. At this time, a group of demon kings were gathering in the valley. Not long ago, all the elixirs were confiscated from them. Otherwise, even if the wooden incarnation can see it, it may not be able to recognize it. When Qinyang's situation is resolved, I will go over and take a look. At the moment, I still need to stay here to help and watch. Mujiawa murmured and then looked back. He has confirmed that the valley must be the place where the demon kings settled in the spirit world, and he does not know when they came. But it is enough to show that he came here together. Did you pass through Tianzi Cliff? Dongshenjing. Demon Refining Tower. After many hardships, Yesuanhua finally found the entrance to the second floor. Now we can go all the way to the 9th floor. I don't know if that boy Zhu Feng will fall into the devil's way again. Yesuanhua couldn't help but smile bitterly. Along the way, he could not help but have regrets. At first, he didn't distinguish right from wrong. Just because he was Zhu Yun's younger brother, he taught him his 9 turns and 9 suns formation. As a result, Zhu Feng was able to enter the demon refining tower this time. What should I do? That's all, what is supposed to come will eventually come. Yesuanhua sighed and stepped into the light door to the 2nd floor. At this time, Zhu Feng, who was on the 9th floor, was looking directly at the familiar altar. In the altar, the black ball is not there. He knew that the evil thoughts had been killed by Zhu Yun, but he did not know that it was the good thoughts that had become the tower spirit. It's strange. Does this tower still have spirit? Then why is there no life in this tower? Is it because I am immortal? Zhu Feng is indeed still immortal at this time. Even though he carries a spiritual sword, he can only use the sword to strike. Looking at the golden sphere and the pale golden pool, he pondered for a moment and then stepped into the pool. In an instant, the golden light flowed and wrapped around Zhu Feng's body. Within a moment, his whole body was wrapped in golden light. Bang! 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 A series of knocks on the door sounded in Zhu Feng's mind, as if they were going to crush his soul. I remembered that the tower spirit had evil thoughts at first, but now it has good thoughts? They are one body, so, my soul can still be connected with this pool of water. Under the severe pain, Zhu Feng still maintained a rare calmness and immediately discovered the surprise. In other words, I can regain control of this tower. Great. If I can bear it, I will definitely be able to regain control of this tower. In the previous demon refining tower, I just wanted to refine all the demons in the world for my own use. But now, if I control this tower, I will refine all the evil spirits in the world. Zhu Feng's heart will be moved by all kind thoughts. Suddenly, the pain disappeared without a trace. Is your name Zhu Feng? A majestic voice sounded in his head. Yes, I am Zhu Feng. Are you the original Taling Shan Nian? Zhu Feng was not surprised. He had experienced a lot and was calm and composed. Yes, I am the tower spirit today. However, I am still very weak. Even if you can refine me, I can't guarantee that I can be of any help to you. Zhu Feng smiled slightly and said, I am also weak. But we can become stronger together. Have you become stronger to protect the goodwill in your heart? Of course, Zhu Feng laughed and said, before, I did all kinds of evil, and the evil thoughts of the original pagoda spirit were the source of all evil. I did many evil things, but now I have relived my life and embarked on the path of immortality again. I thought it was good, and here comes it's okay to atone for your past. I can feel the kindness in your heart. If I reject you, I will have to wait countless hours to recover. Why don't I just follow you and do all the good deeds in the world? Good. Zhu Feng's eyes narrowed and his tone became firm, saying, if I do evil again, you can directly refine me in this tower. As soon as the words fell, the golden light suddenly converged into a line, and went straight into the center of Zhu Feng's eyebrows. An extremely comfortable feeling spreads throughout the body. At the same time, Zhu Feng also felt the spiritual power flowing throughout his body, refining qi to the next level. In this way he became a monk again. Bless the wind. At this time, a surprised voice suddenly appeared on the 9th floor. Yasuanhua. Zhu Feng suddenly opened his eyes and showed a warm smile. He walked out of the pool and walked slowly towards Yasuanhua. Then he knelt straight down and leaned on the ground. Unfilial disciple Zhu Feng has met master. Yasuanhua taught him about the 9 turns and 9 suns formation, and it would not be an exaggeration for Zhu Feng to call him master, unless Yasuanhua disowned him. Zhu Feng, you, refine the demon refining tower? What do you want to do? Yasuanhua said in shock. He knew that Zhu Feng had just succeeded. But fortunately, the opponent is only at the first level of qi refining, so he can deal with it. But looking at Zhu Feng like this, he is no longer like before. Master, I and the demon refining tower have an inextricable bond. Furthermore, it was not me who took the initiative to refine the demon refining tower, but the tower spirit, and I reached a consensus, and he took the initiative to recognize me as his master. Yasuanhua didn't believe Zhu Feng's explanation. But fortunately, Shan Nian spoke at this moment. Grandpa, Zhu Feng has changed his mind. As a kind-hearted person, I can feel the pure kindness in his body. A bird, have you recovered too? Yasuanhua was immediately overjoyed. This was clearly on Niao's voice and it couldn't be faked. That's not true. Behind Zhu Feng, a golden shadow suddenly appeared, which looked like a Niao. He smiled and said, if it weren't for the kind thoughts in Zhu Feng's heart, which are extremely consistent with mine, I wouldn't be able to wake up. I am able to communicate with you now because of his power. Maybe it is because of what he had accomplished with evil thought, so there is some mysterious connection with the demon refining tower, right? It's a great benefit to me and him. That's it? Yasuanhua breathed a sigh of relief, and then said, then, what are your plans now? Zhu Feng said, Master, as I embark on the path to immortality, I naturally need to practice in this mortal world. I will not go to the spiritual world until after the elixir formation period. Yasuanhua smiled bitterly and said, I originally promised your brother to guard the demon refining tower here, but who would have thought that you would accidentally stumble into it and refine the demon refining tower again? If your brother asks, I will also. I don't know how to explain it to him. Zhu Feng was puzzled and said, my brother must have gone to the spirit world, right? Will he come back? You underestimate your brother too much. Yasuanhua sighed and said, even if your brother is in the spiritual world, he still cares about the mortal world. In other words, he cares about the human race in the world. Not necessarily. Zhu Feng curled his lips and said, he wanted to kill me many times at that time. That's because you have done so many evil things. Your brother has always hoped that in the world of immortality, everyone can practice peacefully and pursue their own path. Don't you even think about how many evil things you have done? Zhu Feng smiled bitterly and said, yes, I have done too many evil things, so now I have come to atone for my sins. I also want to understand why I am not willing to be immortal all the time. It is precisely because I don't want to be stained with blood, so that our Zhu family can be passed down from generation to generation. The earth has to bear these. Yasuanhua suddenly realized that he really didn't know the purpose of Zhu Feng's cultivation. Okay, since you have this idea, it's the best. I believe your brother won't blame anything if he knows about it. Although the mortal world is stable now, I think it's better for you to go back to Yunzhou. It's a suitable place. You are a little kid who is at the first level of qi refining. It's not impossible to go back, but, it's still a long way to Yunzhou, right? How can I go back? No one will return to Lingjian sect for a while. Why don't I let Chu Changa see you off? Thank you so much, master. Zhu Feng kowtowed to Yesuanhua again, stood up, and said, Master, shall we go out together? The tower spirit smiled at Yesuanhua, then turned into golden light and retracted into Zhu Feng's body. Then go out and find you in this tower, but I will be exhausted. Yesuanhua nodded, and the two of them left the 9th floor, followed the light door, and walked to the outside of the tower. Located in the abyss, Zhu Feng waved his hand and used his spiritual power. The demon refining tower quickly shrank, turned into a dagger, and got into Zhu Feng's sleeve. Yesuanhua curled his lips, I always feel that you are the chosen one. Zhu Feng smiled and said, I think so too. Yesuanhua choked on his words. Even if this kid doesn't do evil, his mouth. It's really annoying. But it's still much better than the smooth-talking deception before. An hour later. Chang Ji, I'll leave it to you to Zhu Feng. He's still only at the first level of qi refining. Please take care of him along the way. There is no chaos in the mortal world, but who can guarantee what will happen? The matter of killing people and seizing treasures still exists. It's just that the higher the realm and the more information they are exposed to, the more restrained they will be. After all, Zhu Yun's prestige is no joke. Master, don't worry, I will definitely send my junior brother to Yunzhou safely. Chu Changa agreed quickly. Okay, I trust you, teacher. Yesuanhua waved his hand, took out a few bottles of elixirs from his arms, and said, I don't have anything to give you as a teacher. Just make do with these elixirs. You're welcome, disciple. Zhu Feng put it into his storage bag. In fact, he has no shortage of elixirs. There is even no shortage of spiritual stones. After becoming a monk, he could open the storage bag given to him by Zhu Yun. There are many resources here. Zhu Yun had prepared them all for him. But he couldn't sway Yesuanhua's good intentions. But little did he know that jealousy flashed in Chu Changa's eyes. He was punished for blessing the wind. But he still had to put aside his time for cultivation and specially send Zhu Feng to Yunzhou. It's time to set off. I still have things to do, so I won't send you off. Yesuanhua waved his hand and told Chu Changa to leave quickly. It was rare for Elder Dan to come to the 7-star sect, and he had to discuss the method of alchemy. It is also related to his cultivation. Master, see you later. Zhu Feng cupped his hands to say goodbye, and then said to Chu Changa, Senior brother Chu, I'm done. Chu Changa snorted, turned around, and then began to control the flying boat. But just as the flying boat took off, he heard Zhu Feng speak again, Brother Chu, it's a long way to Yunzhou, which delayed your cultivation time. These bottles of pills will be given to you. Chu Changa was slightly stunned, and then he saw Zhu Feng smilingly presenting all the pills that Yesuanhua had sent before. Thank you very much, junior brother Zhu Feng. Where do you want to go in Yunzhou? Just a moment later, Chu Changa put the pills in his arms, but sneered in his heart, wanting to use these pills to please me? When he felt jealous, it meant that he would not retreat so easily. Brother, do you still remember the original Nanfang market? Junior brother wants to go there for training, and I have to trouble you. The destination mentioned by Zhu Feng suddenly gave Chu Changa an idea. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1186. Zhu Feng was still in the qi refining stage. If he wanted to kill him, wouldn't he be able to do it easily? Moreover, the master did not leave any mark on him. When the time comes, he will be far away in Yunzhou and in Nanfang city. After killing him, who can know? The most important thing is that Zhu Feng can easily transfer all the elixirs given by his master to himself, which shows that he has no shortage of elixirs. Chu Chang'e glanced back and caught a glimpse of the storage bag on Zhu Feng's waist. This is not their 7-star gate standard. Let's look at this storage bag. It's even more exquisite. It looks like it's not something from the mortal world at first glance. Thinking back again, Zhu Feng is Zhu Yun's younger brother, and it was Zhu Yun who saved his life, so this storage bag must have been given by Zhu Yun. What kind of person is Zhu Yun? That's what the entire mortal world calls Zhu Xian. It is said that he can also control the wind and rain in the spiritual world. For such a person and his doting younger brother, how could the things he was given be bad? Money and silk moved people's hearts, especially since it was impossible to find out who killed Zhu Feng. How could Chu Chang'e not be moved? No need to worry, wherever junior brother Zhu Feng wants to go, senior brother can send you there. Chu Chang'e's eyes flashed with light and he said meaningfully. But just such a slight change in tone was keenly noticed by Zhu Feng. You know, how old was he when he started cultivating immortality and fell into the devil's path? A man traveled across the ocean, from Zixi Island in the wild sea, and finally reached the spiritual world. In the end, it was just a little bit behind Zhu Yun that he fell short. Then there's senior brother Lao. Zhu Feng kept an eye on it and thought of countermeasures at the same time. After all, his realm is weaker than Chu Chang'e's. If you want to take action, you can only strike first. The only thing you can rely on is the demon refining tower. At this time, Xianxia, the spiritual passage that originally belonged to the demon clan of the East Mortal realm, has an uninvited guest. I didn't expect that the female cultivator would be so powerful. Yao Fuzong, possessed by Zhao Kamang, was panting and covered in scars. Not long after escaping from the Rat clan's ancestral land, he was discovered by Lian Nishang. Lian Nishang chased him all the way and finally drove him to Tianzi Cliff, the most fringe place of Dongsheng realm. Moreover, he has no time to go to other demon clan ancestral lands to devour demon cultivators' demon pills. Because refining neon clothes is like corroding the bones. You can't run in anymore. If you run in, you will be restricted by the cliff of the sky. After all, this is also a body of a demon cultivator. Although Zhao Kamang became a demon cultivator because he practiced the 10,000 demon art, he is still a demon cultivator. He will still be restricted when he enters Tianzi Cliff, and he will not be able to escape when the time comes. The only solution now is to find a way around it. How could this eastern mortal world be in such a situation? Yao Fuzong's eyes were fierce and filled with hatred. I thought that although he was not in the tribulation stage, he had never suffered such a shame and humiliation in the spiritual world. And all of this started because of meeting Zhu Yun. Damn Zhu Yun, I will definitely be incompatible with you. After cursing angrily in his heart, Yao Fuzong shouted in his heart. The demonic power that he had finally gathered over the past few days suddenly dissipated. 10,000 monsters escape. After paying a huge price, Yao Fuzong quickly turned into a ball of demonic blood mist and fled into the distance. There is also a wild sea area over there. There was no way to go on land, so he planned to cross by sea. At the same time, he also thought about where to go, which was Yunzhou. From Zhao Kamang's memory, he could know that Yunzhou is the most barren place for spiritual energy in the mortal world, and there are many sea monsters in the sea there. It can only be said that the slower he recovers, the safer he will be. Come to think of it, that female cultivator won't chase me again. When I regain my strength, I will definitely extract your soul and refine it. When Lian Nishang traced the traces to Tianxia, only Yao Fuzong's indignant echo was left here. She knew that someone had already run away. Who is it that can swallow the demon pills of the demon clan at such a fast speed? Go back and tell sect master yet. Lian Nishang's eyes narrowed and he returned along the original path. She still doesn't know who Yao Fuzong is. If he knew it, he would definitely try his best to pursue the past again. Half a month passed in a flash. Returning to the border of Yunzhou again, Zhu Feng was filled with emotions. Yasuanhua was right, it was indeed more beneficial for him to stay in Yunzhou to practice. Just imagine, even Chu Chang'e wanted to attack him, let alone the other monks he didn't know. However, he was also sure that if Chu Chang'e wanted to take action, he would definitely do it when he got off the flying boat. In other words, when they arrive at Nanfang City, it's time for them to fight to the death. Zhu Feng would not give Chu Chang'e a chance to take action. Because once Chu Chang'e takes action, there will be no possibility for him to fight back. Therefore, he wants to strike first. Junior brother Zhu Feng, it's almost time to arrive. As the speed of the flying boat slowed down, Chu Chang'e's tone also showed a hint of fatigue. Although this is a flying boat driven by spiritual stones and does not consume his spiritual power, after all, the long journey is controlled by him, which consumes a lot of his mind. Seeing the waves lapping against the rocks in the distance, with the wind howling in his ears, Zhu Feng smiled with a smile on his lips. "Thank you, senior brother Chu. Why don't you just put me down here, so that senior brother Chu can go back early?" Chu Chang'e smiled and said, "Since junior brother Zhu Feng said he was going to Nanfang City, senior brother must send you to your destination. Otherwise, how will you explain to master when you go back?" "Senior brother is saying," Zhu Feng suddenly reached into his arms, took out the small sword condensed from the demon refining tower, and stabbed Chu Chang'e straight in the back of the heart. "Then senior brother, don't go back." Zhu Feng didn't use any spiritual power, so Chu Chang'e, who was slightly relaxed, didn't realize that Zhu Feng would take action first. However, Zhu Feng started practicing swordsmanship before he was 10 years old, and he has already become proficient in his swordsmanship. The demon refining tower is even comparable to the chaos sword. Under this situation, Chu Chang'e tried to defend himself immediately but was unable to stop him at all. The tip of the demon refining tower penetrated straight into Chu Chang'e's back heart. "Zhu Feng, you are looking for death." Chu Chang'e was shocked and angry. While his heart was in great pain, he also felt the spiritual power in his body draining away. He quickly stretched out a palm and slapped Zhu Feng with his backhand. Sword rises to the wind and clouds. Zhu Yun only used his spiritual power now, but after all, his level was not enough, but he managed to pull out the demon refining tower and managed to block Chu Chang'e's blow. Crack! One palm, just one palm. That palm force struck hard, knocking Zhu Feng off the flying boat and falling into the sea. But because of this, the wound on the back of his heart suddenly started to bleed like a fountain. No! No! How could this happen? Chu Chang'e panicked. How did he know how terrifying the demon refining tower would be after it turned into a sword? This palm directly caused the spiritual energy in his body to become disordered. Blood was already flowing like a spring, but now it was even more like a flood. His face quickly turned pale, and spiritual power surged out from the wound. As a wave of dizziness came over his head, he could no longer control the flying boat and plunged straight into the sea. Bang! Descending from a high altitude, the flying boat seemed to have hit the hard bluestone floor and shattered into pieces. Even Chu Chang'e fell into a pile of flesh, and then dispersed into the sea water with the current. The smell of blood dissipated, and many blood-devouring demonic beasts appeared in the distance. They fought over each other and swallowed sea water into their mouths. Chu Chang'e. It is truly buried in the belly of a fish, with no bones left. After a long time, when all the monsters dispersed, a head appeared on the sea surface. "It's just Zhu Feng. Call." With a sigh of relief, Zhu Feng couldn't help but smile bitterly. "I wholeheartedly do good to atone for my sins, but who would have thought that after returning to the path of immortality, I would kill another person first?" From his hand, a faint voice came, "Zhu Feng, the premise of your atonement is that you can survive. This person wants to kill you because he wants to prevent you from doing good, then he is evil, so you to kill him is to eliminate evil. To eliminate evil is to do good. To eliminate evil is to do good. Zhu Feng was slightly startled. Yes, to eliminate evil is to do good. Like Zhu Yun, his hands are stained with blood, but as far as I know, all of them deserve to die. In the eyes of evil people, he is an evil person. But in the eyes of all living beings, he is a great person. A good man. I see. Zhu Feng's eyes suddenly lit up, and he seemed to mutter to himself, there are thousands of kinds of kindness, but you can't be stupid. Foolishness. This time, it was Ta Ling's turn to be confused. That's right, Yu Shan. Zhu Feng nodded, raised a ripple, and said, stupid kindness is no different from evil. After that, he smiled slightly and swam towards the coast. In fact, he also suffered a lot of internal injuries, but fortunately the Purgatory Tower blocked a lot of them. His spiritual power was temporarily unusable, but at least his physical power was still available. This is also due to the fact that he has cultivated to the nascent soul stage, and his body has been tempered to some extent. No matter how strong Chu Changa was, it was impossible for him to be weakened by the Purgatory Tower and then hurt his body. But the shock to the soul is inevitable. Today's Nanfangfang city has become a new gathering place for some ordinary monks, which is also one of the purposes of Zhu Feng coming here. No one knows him, so he can completely regard himself as a casual cultivator. At the same time, the cultivators here are not strong enough and there is no way they can threaten him. After entering Fangxi, he found an ordinary inn and stayed in it, planning to recover from his injuries first and then make plans. But who would have thought that in Nanfangfang city, where dragons and fishes are mixed, someone would still notice him. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1187. Jiden Sect, Tianji Peak. As a clear phoenix cry sounded, Wood Incarnation knew that summoning the Phoenix Queen's spirit from the Fengguo sword must have succeeded. As long as Sun Qiniang and Qin Tianji came out, he would temporarily say goodbye and go to the valley to take a look. Compared to understanding the entire Jiden Mountains, he wanted to reunite with the Demon Kings. Another moment passed, and on Sun Qiniang's shoulder stood a petite but spirited red bird. There was no doubt that it was the resurrected Phoenix Queen. It was a pity that Ye Yuan used his thunder to wipe out the Phoenix Queen's original consciousness, and she could no longer recognize Zhu Yun. But instinctively, the newly born Phoenix Queen was also slightly hostile to Wood Incarnation, and she was seen chirping and screaming. Sun Qiniang asked curiously, Xiao Huang, he didn't provoke you, why do you react so strongly? The Wood Incarnation smiled and didn't respond. Of course, he didn't know that Ye Yuan had secretly made a move. Brother Tianji, I'm leaving for a while, is that okay? Leave. Qin Tianji was stunned and asked curiously, didn't you come to Jidan sect to set up the formation? The formation hasn't been set up yet, why do you want to leave? Sun Qiniang thought that the Wood Incarnation was leaving, so she quickly put away the Queen Phoenix and waited for the Wood Incarnation to say a word, and she would leave with him. No, no, the Wood Incarnation laughed hurriedly, I found a few acquaintances in the mortal world, I went over to say hello and came back, I told you, actually I just thought that if the Jidan sect came to ask for someone, you can help me say a few words, so as not to let Elder Zhu and others think I ran away. Hey, you can still meet acquaintances. Qin Tianji was also a little surprised. Why, Zhu Yun, can't have acquaintances in the spirit world. What are you talking about? The Wood Incarnation was very dissatisfied. Sun Qiniang said with a smile, Zhu Yun has made friends with many cultivators in the mortal world. You should not underestimate him. Qin Tianji said helplessly, how dare I underestimate him? If I underestimated him, would I ask him for help? Besides, Zhu Xiao is also one of the people I can't calculate, just like you. That's good, the wood incarnation nodded with a smile, and when he was about to leave, he was stopped by Sun Qiniang. Here, give it to you. Sun Qiniang actually threw the Fengguo sword directly to the wood incarnation. Give me this sword. The wood incarnation, who subconsciously took the sword, was stunned. Yes, it's useless to give it to me. Didn't you want a sword in the first place? Sun Qiniang was surprised. They went to the Sword Valley first to ask Feng Qingyang for a sword. As a result, the Sword Valley was buried. Okay, I won't be polite then. The wood incarnation put away the sword, and he was also very sad. Who would have thought that after all the twists and turns, the sword would finally return to his hands? I don't know what Chen Tianqiao would think if he knew about this. By the way, is the place you are going far? Do you want me to accompany you there? Sun Qiniang blinked, smiling. Zhu Yun curled his lips. How could he not see that Sun Qiniang was teasing him? Not far, just on the hill over there, you should play with your little phoenix well. After that, the wood incarnation took off and jumped down from the Tianji peak. In just a moment, he disappeared in the mist. Brother Tianji, Sun Qiniang suddenly said at this time, can you help me calculate whether Zhu Yun is in danger there? Her original intention was to worry that the wood incarnation was holding the Fengguo sword, and if he ran into Chen Tianqiao and didn't go far away, what should he do? But he ignored the question Qin Tianji had just asked. Jian Huang, I can't count him. Qin Tianji frowned. Sun Qiniang pondered for a moment and said, then you count where Chen Tianqiao is. This. Qin Tianji hesitated, and Sun Qiniang frowned and said, this can't be counted, that can't be counted. Could it be that Chen Tianqiao is also a chosen person? Is there anything you can't count? That's not the case. Qin Tianji was extremely doubtful in his heart, whether it was a correct decision for him to show up so early and get to know Mu Huashan and Sun Qiniang. How long have these two people been here? But they have caused quite a stir, right? He sighed and said, Chen Tianqiao is in the tribulation period and is very powerful. If I count him, the price will be high. Huh. Sun Qiniang was immediately surprised. Your counting of people is related to realm. Of course, Qin Tianji almost lost his breath, thinking in his heart, don't you think I am a mortal who is setting up a stall and fooling around? All these calculations are the secrets of heaven. The stronger the person, the greater the price he pays. Otherwise, how could I have been in seclusion for so many years, just waiting for the moment when the secret realm of ascension was opened? Okay, Sun Qiniang was too lazy to care, waved her hand, and said, just tell me if you can calculate it. If you can calculate it, what price you need to pay, at most, I'll let Zhu Yun compensate you later. Qin Tianji wanted to curse, you ask Zhu Yun to compensate, but what if Zhu Yun said he didn't know and refused to pay? Gritting his teeth, Qin Tianji said, I have calculated it once today, and I can't calculate another tribulation period. Then why didn't you say you couldn't calculate it earlier? Sun Qiniang glanced at him, as if muttering to herself, I thought it was so powerful to practice this, but it turns out that you can only calculate it once a day? What's the point? Qin Tianji didn't spit out a mouthful of blood. He was at the peak of the late tribulation period, and those powerful people in the spiritual world didn't give him 3 points of face. Even those who seek something from themselves will be even more groveling. In the end, it doesn't look like the same thing to you, Jian Huang. Qin Tianji was so angry that his teeth itched, but there was nothing he could do. I'm sorry, Jian Huang. Qin's ability is really limited. Let's do this. I'll send this disciple back first. Qin Tianji said something hypocritical, then picked up the fat monk who was unconscious and flew away in the air. Unexpectedly, Sun Qinyang's faint words came from behind her, "It's not as useful as this fat man." Qin Tianji almost fell off the cliff. Medicine King Valley. A group of demon kings transformed into human forms and sat on the ground. Until, Hu Chang came out from the depths of the valley, heartbroken. The Five Elements sect is so inhuman. Not only did they steal 90% of our elixirs, but they also destroyed the medicine garden and spiritual fields. Lao Jin was furious, "That's unreasonable, Valley Master Hu. At worst, we won't hand over the elixir. We might as well stay here and wait until the next time someone from the Five Elements sect comes, and fight him to the death." "That's right," Lao Zu groaned, "I hate those people who beg for food with nothing and smash other people's bowls. Just do it. Anyway, they are only here for the void refining stage. We have so many demon saints, so we are afraid of them. Whatever it is, I don't want to be angry with you anymore. I came to the spiritual world to practice, not to be angry. Anyway, I will never collect magic medicine again." Him. Just as all the demon kings were feeling indignant, a voice suddenly reached their ears. "I asked you, what kind of disadvantages have you suffered? You always have to fight with others. Are you too confident when you break through to the realm of demon saint?" Hearing this familiar voice, all the demon kings and Hu Chang turned their heads in disbelief and looked at the mouth of the valley. The smile is full of smiles and the clouds are light and the wind is gentle. If not Zhu Yun, who else could it be? Wish Immortal. Owner. Wish Yun. Various names were called out in unison, and they rushed over one after another. After taking a closer look, I found that Zhu Yun was actually in the stage of becoming a god, which was even more surprising. "Zhu Yun, congratulations. I thought that these demon Taoist friends would be the fastest to break through to the realm of demon saints. I didn't expect that you are also in the god transformation stage." Hu Chang was relatively rational. He waited until the demon kings calmed down, then smiled and exchanged greetings. "As for cultivation, just let nature take its course." Mu Jiahua waved his hand and said, "I saw you all looking excited earlier, but what difficulties did you encounter?" "Stop talking, it's not the Five Elements sect." Lao Jin spoke angrily, leaving Mu Jiajia stunned for a moment. "The tentacles of the Five Elements sect can't reach beyond the sky, let alone such a deep place. You must know that at that time, the Five Elements Sanguine just appeared on the edge of the Immortal platform and was killed by Ye Yuan without any explanation. This is more than just killing a chicken to scare the monkeys. This can be regarded as killing the phoenix to scare the monkey. It's hard to explain this matter, Zhu Yun. Who would have thought that Zhong Jingguo's daughter would actually become the head of the Five Elements sect?" "Wait a minute." After hearing Hu Chang's words, Mu Jianying quickly interrupted him and said, "You mean, you saw Xianxia?" "Yes, it's Xianxia. If we hadn't met her, how could we have lived such a miserable life? Originally, in this Kunlun sky, outside the Jiden Mountains, no one disturbed our cultivation, and even their breakthrough no one in the demon saint realm has been disturbed. All this started when we met Xianxia and a subordinate from a higher realm. We have no power to resist." Mu Jiahua's eyes narrowed and he said, "Master Hu, please tell me slowly. I happened to be doing something in Jidanzong, and I saw you guys, so I came here to meet you. So I have time, so don't be in a hurry. You actually came out of Jiden sect." Not only Hu Chang, but all the demon kings, no, they should all be demon saints now. They were also extremely shocked. "Well, Jidan sect, and if nothing else happens, I will stay in Jidan sect in a short time." Mu Incarnation's next words shocked these demon saints again. This is the Jidan sect. The existence they look up to. And Zhu Yun actually joined in? That's great. The Jiden sect is very powerful. I have seen many powerful men. If they want to enter the Jiden mountains, they have to notify them before they can enter. No one dares to break in. Mujiawa laughed and said, Gu Master Hu, you should tell me what happened to you. Xianxia also had an adventure, and I will kill him. So, you have to tell me everything you encountered, in detail. I can make a good plan. Mujianing actually knows very well that with the strength of his avatar, he really cannot compete with Xianxia. Let's not talk about the opponent's weird soul method. Even if he uses his body to deal with it, it's just one move away, not to mention that it's just an incarnation now. Apart from Jidan sect, the only one who can borrow strength is Sun Qiniang. But Jidan sect cooperates with 5 Elements sect. Who knows if the Jidan sect would take the risk to fight with the Jidan sect for him? What if the 5 Elements sect doesn't give you face? After a full hour, Mu Incarnation finally got the most useful piece of information. Every other month, the 5 Elements sect will send people to collect the corresponding amount of elixir. This month, the elixir has just been taken away. That is to say, he has a month to prepare and see if there is a chance to sneak into the 5 Elements sect. The premise is that next month, the people who come to collect the spiritual medicine will be of lower strength, and they can handle it. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1188. After explaining the matter clearly, Mujiajia reminisced with these old friends. Did you come to this spiritual world together? Hu Chong said with a smile, I came here first. I am practicing medicine, so I must go deep into the mountains, so I followed the mountain road of Tianweishan all the way deep, and finally found that there was no one in this valley, so I lived here. Mujiawa nodded and said, it's good luck. The ascension platform has reduced the number of powerful people in Tianwei. Otherwise, it would be difficult for you to enter it. We have also heard about the ascension to immortal platform. Zhu Xian, is that really a way for people to go directly to the immortal realm? A group of demon saints also had bright eyes, and their faces were filled with anticipation. It's true, Mujiawa smiled slightly and said, the lucky person who ascended to the immortal stage this time is my Aunt Tang. Are you talking about Tang Liwen? Hu Chong couldn't help being surprised. Yes, it's her. Mujiawa nodded, but he suddenly remembered something Ye Yuan once said, passing through the immortal ascension platform is not necessarily a good thing. This 3-character lucky person. Seeing Mujianing's expression dimming a little, everyone thought he was surprised that he didn't have such a destiny, so they stopped discussing the topic any further and instead changed the subject and said, I heard that after the ascension platform, there is also the ascension immortal. Secret realm, is there such a thing? Mujiawa nodded and said, yes, the immortal platform, will open in about half a year. If you want to go, you can. However, you have to stop when you see good things. Don't be greedy and rush forward. In Zhu Yun's heart, he had already regarded these demon saints and Hu Chong as his friends. He will not influence them with his own ideas. So this opinion was given. Since it is a secret realm, there will definitely be dangers, Hu Chong said with a smile. It is rumored that there are immortal treasures in the secret realm of Xianxia. We are not going for the immortal treasures. We just want to find some elixirs. If we can bring them out and plant them, here, it couldn't be better. Niu Gang shook his head at the side and said, Grain Master, even if you have the elixir, there is no need to plant it. If that stinky bitch asks someone to come and collect it again, isn't the elixir we have worked so hard to do for others, wedding dress? That's true, Hu Chong and others suddenly frowned, but Brother Dayang, who had been silent until now, laughed and said, didn't you forget that Zhu Xian said he wanted to help us solve the problem? Come to think of it, since Zhu Xian has proposed a solution, he will definitely solve the matter in the Xianxian secret realm, right? Mujiawa touched his nose. In fact, he had no confidence in his heart and said, I can only try my best to solve the problem, but there is no guarantee of success. To be honest with you, I fought against Xianxia once. At that time, I returned the original body in a battle with him. His soul method was almost destroyed. You know, she was only at the nascent soul stage at that time, but I was at the God transformation stage. Secondly, even if the Five Elements sect is no longer at the tribulation stage, the background is profound, and it is not something that a few of us can easily solve. Is the Five Elements sect really that powerful? When they came to the spirit world, the Five Elements sect had already been killed by Yun with a hammer. The Five Elements sect also responded quickly, closing the sect inward and releasing the huge territory. In this spiritual world, there are naturally not many people who know how powerful the Five Elements sect is. They arrived late and were focused on walking towards the depths of Tianwei, so they didn't hear much news about the Five Elements sect. It's amazing, it's really amazing. It's as strong as the Jidan section. Mujiawa looked up towards the Jidan mountains and said, I won't break up with the Five Elements sect. You don't even dare to do Jidan sect. Everyone took a breath of cold air, and at the same time they also thought about why Xianxia dared to be so presumptuous on the outskirts of the Jidan mountains. So this matter needs to be considered in the long term. Mujiawa sighed and said, anyway, I will still be in Jidanzong during this period. If anything happens, you can come to Jidanzong to find me. He didn't want to talk about his formation in the Jidan sect for the time being, and he didn't want these people to misunderstand that he had a firm foothold in the Jidan sect. After all, he and Jidan sect were just a deal. And even if Qin Tianji asked for help from him, Mujiajia still didn't know Qin Tianji's true plan after all. Are you taking advantage of him, or do you really want to ask for something important? Regarding his own affairs, Qin Tianji kept it secret, and Mu Huafeng could not guarantee whether they would fall out at any time. In short, Mujiajia felt that he could not make a promise to these old friends before he had fully established himself. However, I believe that Jidan sect will give him some face. If you let these demon saints come to find you, you won't be too much hindered. After all, they were also neutral sects, and there were countless monks who came to ask for elixirs and buy medicine. Of course, this also includes demon cultivators. That's not bad. Hu Chong and the demon saints also knew that they could not force others to do anything. They trusted Zuyun in his actions and expressed their understanding of his decision. Mujiawa smiled and said, by the way, before you came to the spirit world, did you make an appointment to meet in the depths of the outer world? Going to a strange place where there are threats from a higher level, hugging each other for warmth is the wisest decision. We made an appointment, but we just didn't expect to take root here. Lao Jin nodded and said, I came with a group of demon kings, and Valley Master who was one step ahead of us and came here to start a battle. Otherwise, with the temperament of people like us, I'm afraid we can't find such a good place. That's right, the passages you took are also different. Master Hu took the passage to the Lin family's ancestral land, and you should take the cliff of heaven, right? The wood incarnation said subconsciously. The cliff of heaven. Big brother Yang also laughed. Zeus Yen, have you forgotten one thing? We gave you all the totem poles, how can you enter the cliff of heaven? You can enter, but you will be restricted by the cliff of heaven. The wood incarnation was stunned, and then he remembered that not to mention their totem poles, even the dragon demon emperor's dragon head pillar was standing quietly in the universe world, and it also led to the great enemy Yao Fuzong. So you guys, are you also from the Lin family's ancestral land? Yes, actually, we had this plan since you left. Later, we left the Lin family's ancestral land and returned to the ancestral lands of each clan. We also resigned from the position of the Demon King, and finally gathered in the Lin family's ancestral land and came to the spirit world together. It just so happened that when we arrived, we appeared in the outer heaven, which was different from what Master Hu said, that we appeared in the sea. You took the same passage, but appeared in different places. The wood incarnation was a little confused. This is also what we find strange, but fortunately, we finally arrived at the agreed place. The demon saints didn't think so, but the wood incarnation vaguely remembered something in his heart, but he couldn't catch that spiritual light. But he felt that it must be inseparable from the cliff of heaven. He had been to the cliff of heaven, and at that time he was chasing the nightmare demon king who was harming the entire Dongfan world. Because the nightmare demon king did not appear at the cliff of heaven, Zuyun searched all the way and had also entered the cliff of heaven to see. The cliff of heaven would not have any impact on the human race, so he walked around the periphery and made sure that he did not find the nightmare demon king. In addition, he left the cliff of heaven after hearing the news from the rat clan's ancestral land. If these demon saints came to the outside of the Jidan mountains through the cliff of heaven, the wood incarnation would not be surprised. But the passage they took was the same as his. Could it be that it was related to the demon cultivators? After thinking about it, the wood incarnation could not figure out the key. Maybe Yayuan knew, but unfortunately, Yayuan had already gone to the 10,000 mountains at this time. With his strength far beyond the tribulation crossing stage, plus a thunder immortal hammer, even if he brought Lu Ruyan, he could not catch up. While he was thinking about thousands of things, Sun Qiniang suddenly heard a clear whistle from the Jidan mountains. He was shocked and knew that something happened in the Jidan section. Sun Qiniang was calling him back. So, he collected his thoughts and said to everyone, "I have something to do here, everyone, I'm leaving first, I'll come back to see you when I have time. Take care." The wood incarnation bowed, and everyone else also said goodbye. The wood incarnation soared into the air, turned into a green light, and flew straight towards Tianji Peak. Tianji Peak is also a mountain outside the Jidan mountains. The wood incarnation looked in the direction of the mountain, and suddenly his face changed, and 3 words appeared in his mind. The cliff of heaven. He understood. Why does this Jidan mountains look so familiar? Because it is exactly the same as the cliff of heaven. How can this be? He was full of disbelief, his figure was standing in the air, how could he remember to continue flying? Of course he knew that both the spiritual world and the mortal world belong to Huangming Seeing. It is in the same world, but at 2 different levels. In addition to the wild sea being connected, if you want to communicate with each other, you can only travel through the channels of each world. But why does the Jidan mountains look like the cliff of heaven? Is it the same place, or just similar? Wait, wood incarnation suddenly remembered another question. Yusha realm, Juyu land, the 2 realms are also connected as one, then this cliff of heaven, is it actually one? In other words, the heaven beyond heaven is actually directly connected to Dongsheng realm. No, that's not right. If the 4 major mortal realms are connected to Dongsheng realm, then are the other major mortal realms also connected to the heaven beyond heaven? Just as he was full of doubts, a sword light suddenly attacked, and when it flew in front of him, it also stopped suddenly. Zuyun, what's wrong? It's Sun Qiniang. It turned out that Sun Qiniang saw that wood incarnation had clearly started, but suddenly stopped in mid-air, so she hurried over. No, I'm thinking about something. Mu Huashan quickly came back to his senses. He couldn't explain these questions to Sun Qiniang, so he remembered them in his heart and smiled. Is there anything urgent? Did the people from Jidan sect come to find us? Sun Qiniang shook her head, nodded again, and said, yes, they came to find us, but... But what? Mu Huashan frowned, and had a bad feeling. But, they asked us to leave Jidan sect. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1189. As soon as these words came out, Mujiajia's face was full of confusion. How could this be possible? I finally came to Jidanzong from Balianzong just to set up a mountain protecting formation for them. You know, before the incident happened in Balian sect, Zhu Changrong went back to inform Jidan section Yao Jidao, the leader of the sect, brought several big guys in the sect to talk to Lin Changfeng in person, just for himself. But here we are at the Jidan sect, and the person in charge has not even met us yet, so he wants to drive us away? What do they mean by this? There is no need for a mountain protecting formation. Mujiawa frowned and asked. Originally, he had planned to stay in Jidan sect and wait peacefully until the day when the secret realm of ascension to immortal was opened. As a result, he was expelled even before he had enough time for the whole day. Besides, what did Qin Tianji say? As soon as Mujiawa finished speaking, Qin Tianji appeared next to Sun Qiniang with a guilty look on his face. Zuyun, it's not that I won't help you, brother. In fact, those old guys who were about to crawl into the coffin have come out. I don't want to get involved in this. Not even you. Wooden Avatar suddenly felt that things might not be as simple as they seemed. Hey, Qin Tianji said, if I were an ordinary junior, I would be right. But against those old immortals, I am just a guest after all. What can I do? I am also helpless. Faced with Qin Tianji's explanation, Mujiajia looked at Sun Qiniang. Sun Qiniang sighed, Zuyun, don't blame brother Tianji. They came out with 3 tribulation seniors and told brother Tianji that either they could figure out your origin and be harmless to the Jidan sect, or they would let you leave the Jidan section. In an instant, another question that he had thought about before appeared in Mu's head, which was Qin Tianji. Is it really impossible to figure him out? In fact, Mujiajia still believes in this point. After all, he carries the immortal emperor's legacy mirror, the cosmic glazed mirror, which far exceeds the rules of heaven for Huangming seeing. In this world, even Qin Tianji, no matter how accomplished he is, cannot see it. Beyond the way of heaven, he can calculate his life history. If you really think about it, he spent far more time in the immortal mansion and the Dazu world than in this world. Okay, that's just right. I'll settle outside the Jidan mountains. This is okay after all, right? Since he can't stay in Jidan sect, Namu Incarnation is happy and at ease. It just so happens that Yaoang Valley is not bad, at least it will be quiet for a month. At the same time, he can also concentrate on dealing with the next monk from the 5 Elements sect who comes to collect medicine. 1 month is enough time for him to lay down the star transformation formation in Shiwanggu. In addition, there are 11 clans of demon saints here, unless all the monks from the 5 Elements sect who are in the void refining and fusion stage come over. Of course, Qin Tianji said quickly, although those old guys from the Jidan sect are overbearing, at least they can't control the outside world. Otherwise, they are not neutral. That's good. Mujiawa didn't care at all, smiled heartily, greeted Sun Qiniang and left. He knew Sun Qiniang's attitude very well, and she would probably be walking with him in the spiritual world in a short time. It's not just for taking advantage. Having Sun Qiniang by his side can indeed be a lot more convenient for him. If he meets Xianxia again, it will be a great help to him. Muhuawa's body had only fallen 2 feet. When he looked back, he found that Qin Tianji was still following him, with a smile on his face. He looked like a middle-aged man, but he looked like a wretched old man. Brother Tianji, I don't blame you. Why are you following me? Go back to where you came from. Qin Tianji's period of transcending tribulation is not for his use. If he follows Yaoang Valley, he might encounter some trouble. Unexpectedly, Qin Tianji laughed twice and said, I wish you little friend, wish you little brother, wish you brother, it's true, I was kicked out too. What? Mujiawa's eyes widened and he almost fell down from mid-air. You were kicked out. How is this possible? Based on the information he got, he could see with his own eyes and hear with his own ears that Qin Tianji was a representative figure of Jidan sect. It's still a period of transcending tribulation. Are you going to drive them away? Your Jidan sect is so full of people? This, Zuyun, what Brother Tianji said is true. Sun Qiniang also spoke from the side at this time, allowing Mu Jiahua to finally accept a little bit of reality. I'm a bit confused. Who is the leader of the Jidan sect now? Why should they drive away you, a powerful cultivator of the Tianji Dao? Qin Tianji smiled sarcastically, not embarrassed to explain, but Sun Qiniang laughed and said, a few old men came here and said that Brother Tianji is a man who only eats dry food, can't make alchemy, can't fight, and is acting like a mortal man day by day. He was a liar who was a fortune teller and wasted the resources of their Jidan sect, so he was kicked out. Wooden Avatar was immediately speechless. But looking at it from Qin Tianji's perspective, it seems that there is really nothing wrong with it. The other party first asked to count him, but Qin Tianji said he couldn't. I haven't counted it in recent years, except for the recent opening time of the Ascension Secret Realm. So, do you want to follow me? Mu Jiahua raised his eyebrows and said. Of course. I haven't been out of this outer world for thousands of years. I'm not familiar with the place and I don't have a place to stay. Also, didn't we make an appointment to go to the secret realm of immortality? We just want to stay together. When the time comes, it's also convenient for discussing things. Qin Tianji looked like a weakling, which made Mu Jiahua laugh for a while, and Sun Qiniang couldn't help laughing. Okay, it's not impossible to follow, but you have to understand one thing first. If you follow me, I will be living under someone else's roof. I understand, Qin Tianji nodded like pounding garlic, and said, as long as you don't let me tell fortunes, I can do anything. Isn't this nonsense? The wood incarnation glanced at him and said unhappily, most of my friends are demon cultivators, and they have just broken through the realm of demon saints, so their strength is not that strong. Can you suppress your aura? Don't scare my friends. Yes, Brother Zhu is right, I will suppress it now. It can be said that Qin Tianji is still quite capable. He casually pinched a few strange spells, and his aura was actually condensed to the nascent soul stage. The wood incarnation was careful and purified his spiritual power a little. He used the Divine Eyes spell for 1/10 of a breath, but he didn't see through it. He was surprised and relieved at the same time. Okay, then you can follow me. Just say that you are a fellow Taoist I met in the spirit world, how about that? I know, Brother Zhu and Jian Huang will call me, Old G from now on. Okay, calling you by your last name Qin will inevitably cause trouble. You also said that the people in the spirit world will forget that you are surnamed G. Yes, Qin, no, G means the same thing. After solving the problem of a place to stay, Qin Tianji was relieved. He also has his own little thoughts. If Qin Tianji did not have the protection of the Jidan sect and endorsed him from behind, then, there would definitely be countless hidden people in the tribulation period who would hear the news and want to catch him. The old guys in the Jidan sect were right. Qin Tianji really can't do anything except fortune telling. And this sudden change drove Qin Tianji out. I'm afraid only the 3 people in the tribulation period know the truth. As for Qin Tianji, Mu Huashan believes that he must know something. However, they have common interests for the time being, so they can cooperate for the time being. If Qin Tianji can be used to a certain extent, the wood incarnation would not mind taking Qin Tianji for his own use. The people in Yaoang Valley had not yet completely dispersed, but they saw the wood incarnation coming back with a man and a woman beside him, and they could not help but be surprised. Who are these two? Of course, none of them knew Qin Tianji, but someone still knew Sun Qiniang. Qiniang, you are my good partner when I started cultivating immortals. Both of us are from Yunzhou. The wood incarnation smiled and introduced Sun Qiniang, then pointed at Qin Tianji and said, "This is a Taoist friend I met in the spirit world. He is a like-minded Taoist. His surname is Ji, you can call him Taoist fellow Ji." "Hey, you have the same surname as me? Were we from the same family 500 years ago?" At this time, the chicken demon saint suddenly said something at the side, then swayed forward, looked Qin Tianji up and down, and saw that he was only in the nascent soul stage, so he said, "Your surname is Ji, my last name is Ji too. If we call everyone with the last name Ji, I'm afraid we'll call the wrong person. So, I'm in the demon saint realm, and you're in the nascent soul stage. How about calling me old G and you little g in the future?" "Okay, okay, Qin Tianji would love to do so as long as his true identity is not known." He nodded repeatedly and said, "Seniors, just call me little G. Then welcome little G to our Medicine King Valley. Once here, we'll share happiness and difficulties together." The chicken demon saint said with a smile, but there was a strong sense of conspiracy. Niu Gang laughed and said, "Little G, you can follow old G to dig the land in the future. It just so happens that our spiritual medicine has been harvested and the land has been turned over. I'll be responsible for plowing, and you'll be responsible for digging." The first meeting, full of laughter. Qin Tianji has a good mentality. These are actually trivial matters to him. But the mistake is that he is only in the nascent soul stage now, and there will be a lot of suffering waiting for him. Fortunately, for his own plan, he can endure humiliation. After all, they have endured for thousands of years. In Medicine King Valley, Wood Incarnation, Hu Chang, and Sun Qiniang sat together. "Zuyun, do you have any other plans? We originally agreed to prepare the disturbed spiritual medicine field today, and go out to collect herbs tomorrow." Hu Chang said the plan. "Collecting herbs is not urgent." Wood Incarnation said, "You can leave the spiritual medicine to me. I plan to set up a big formation for Medicine King Valley first." Hearing this, Hu Chang's eyes lit up. He knew Zuyun's attainments in formation, but soon, he frowned and said, "It will probably cost a lot of spiritual stones to set up a big formation? I don't have much here." As he said, he took out a storage bag. There were quite a few, but most of them were low-grade spiritual stones. The few medium-grade spiritual stones were used by Xianxia to humiliate him before. "I have spiritual stones, but there is no need for the Valley Master to worry. I have other plans that need." As he said, he looked at Sun Qiniang. Sun Qiniang was stunned, pointed at herself, and said, "I don't understand formations. At most, I only know some sword formations." Sword formations and formations are completely different things. "Qiniang, I want you to help me run errands and find someone." "Find someone? Who? I don't know anyone." Sun Qiniang was also confused. "It doesn't matter if you don't know him, just report my name when the time comes. He knows me." "You are looking for a helper." Sun Qiniang was delighted and stood up straight immediately. As long as she could help Zuyun, she was willing. "Yes, helper. If this helper is found correctly, the people of the Five Elements sect will never come back." The eyes of the Wood Incarnation flashed with brilliance. Because when he was preparing to arrange the Dozhuan Xinyi formation, he had a brand new idea in his mind. It concerns the 12 major demon tribes. "I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills." Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 1190. Who are you looking for? Who is the other person's name? What is his realm? Sun Qiniang saw Mujiajia's serious expression and knew that this would be an important task. Dragon Demon Emperor. These three words from Mu Jinhua's mouth made Sun Qiniang break into a cold sweat. Dragon Demon Emperor? Zuyun, are you tired of me and want me to die? Sun Qinyang almost put her Phoenix Thunder Dragon sword on Mujiawa's neck. Mujiawa rolled his eyes and said, "You don't believe me so much. It's the new Dragon Demon Emperor. His name is Longwu, and he has a pretty good relationship with me. We don't know each other, right?" By the way, at this time, Mujiajia remembered something again and continued, "He refined the 7 Dragon Balls, and you refine the 7 Phoenix Beads. Maybe you can find him more easily. After you find him, you take him to this valley." Sun Qinyang was shocked and said, "He refined the Dragon Balls." "Yes, I'm sure, but that's not the important point. What's important is that there aren't many people we can ask for help." "Okay, I understand." Sun Qinyang returned the Wind and Thunder Dragon sword to her waist. When she turned around and took off into the air, the Phoenix Queen who was resting on her shoulder let out a clear whistle and naturally grew in size and became Sun Qinyang's servant. Watching Sun Qinyang go away, Mujiawa always felt that he must have overlooked something, but he just couldn't remember. At this time, Extreme Dan Peak. The 3 old men, who were looking at the twilight of their lives, sat together, with no expressions on their faces at all. If outsiders were here, they would definitely think that they were already sitting here. These 3 people are the real ancestors of the Jiden sect, and they are named Duanyan, Dumo, and Duohi respectively. During the crisis, I still don't understand why we drove that boy Tianji out of our Jiden sect. Dunan opened his eyes slightly and said, "Heaven's secret is useless to us." Dui said, "Tianji is useless to us, but it is still useful to the descendants of Jidan section. It works." There was a touch of disdain in Dunan's tone, and he said, "Qin Tianji is very scheming. It's just that we have been in Jiden sect these years. He is wary, so he doesn't dare to be too presumptuous. But you and I are already long-lived. There is not much left. If there is no breakthrough after ascending to the immortal secret realm, his body will die and his soul will be scattered in this spiritual world. Who can control him then?" I don't agree with what you said. If Qin Tianji really has evil intentions, then after we leave, whether he ascends to heaven or passes away, he will eventually return to Jiden Peak and do what he wants to do thing. Dui's words attracted Dumo's approval. Dunan showed a smile that was uglier than crying, and said, "You are wrong, you are all wrong. Drive Qin Tianji out, and he can't do anything. In other words, unless he finds another sect willing to take him in, otherwise he will be extremely busy." "You mean?" Du Mo suddenly understood and said, "Spread the news that he left Jidan sect." "Yes, the news that the secret realm of ascension to immortality will be opened within half a year has not been spread yet, so at least before that, at least 90% of the monks in the spiritual world will come to our Jidan sect to ask for elixirs. We don't need to tell them. Report, so as not to arouse suspicion among interested people. But as long as an announcement is made within the sect, the news will spread naturally. By then, Qin Tianji will be busy." The smile on Dunan's face was finally no longer so ugly. "But," Dumo continued, "what if Qin Tianji leaks the news? Are you referring to the Ascension secret realm opening within half a year?" "Good. Don't worry," said the old god of fairy, showing his yellow teeth, "don't forget the purpose of Qin Tianji staying in our Jiden sect. If anyone knows the specific time for the opening of the Ascension secret realm this time, it won't do him any good. So, he will try his best to avoid this topic." Dumo said again, "But Balian section?" "The Balian sect is gone," Du Mo said. Yao Jiwa used Yan Hunsen's mother elixir to destroy the Balian sect. Moreover, Yao Jidao and Yao Jiwa have also died. Death. In other words, no one in the world knows the exact time when the Ascension secret realm will be opened. At least half of the monks will not be able to get there in time. The 3 of them talked to each other, and after they felt that there was no problem, they finally felt relieved. As for the formation master brought back from Balian sect, completely forgotten. What kind of trouble can a boy in the stage of becoming a god be able to make? They calculate thousands of times, but they are not as good at calculating as Xianxia. Zuyun, how can I help? In the past few days, Mu Incarnation has been busy setting up formations. Xianxia followed the chicken demon sage to dig the soil. The other demon sages also have work to do. The only one who is free is Hu Chang. He watched Mu Zhenhua busy, with his hands and feet having nowhere to rest. Master Hu, just be busy with your own business. You can't help me with my formation. Mu Jiahua smiled and said, it's not that he doesn't look down on it, it's actually that he wants to add new rules and changes to this time star shifting formation. Let alone Hu Chang, even if Tang Liwen and Yesuan Hua come, they may not be able to help. Hu Chang knew that he really had nothing to say in this aspect, but he was still a little unhappy in his heart. I don't understand the formation, but you showed me where to put the spirit stones, which gave me a sense of participation. Watching the wood incarnation say something and then devote himself to the formation, Hu Chang had no choice but to leave in disappointment. But before he took 2 steps, the wood incarnation called him. Master Hu, I almost forgot one thing. Can you help me open a cave? Maybe in a few days, I have friends coming. The wood incarnation thought of Dago and Mengwei. It is not a good thing for the old man to lock them in. Of course, he can't tell Hu Chang that he has 2 people with him. When Hu Chang heard this, his eyes lit up. If there are friends coming, then isn't that reinforcement? Okay. A few friends. I'm also bored, so it doesn't matter if I open a few more. One is enough, but it can be bigger. Leave it to Hu. Hu Chang patted his chest and left quickly. This old Hu. The wood incarnation smiled and continued to set up the formation. It seems to be calm, but in fact the situation is still a little tense. He had to set up the formation within 7 days at most. But if Sun Qiniang didn't find Longwu and come back within half a month, he could only start over. Because the new idea came from the demon refining tower and the 12 totem poles. The 12 demon tribes carried the destiny, and after gathering, there would be a mysterious power. The wood incarnation wanted to use this power to integrate into the formation. If he could use it, I believe that the formation laid out with the middle grade spirit stone could burst out with stronger power. But the premise of all this is that Longwu can be found and Longwu will obey his orders. If not, he can only set up a mountain protection formation like the one in Balian Mountain. I don't know if all the people in Balian sect died, it's a pity for that fire vein. The wood incarnation murmured, and then retracted his thoughts. After the formation was completed, because new things were added, various experiments would definitely be needed. Even if it didn't work, there was still time to start over. So really, he didn't have much time. Another few days passed. The demon saints were all done with their work and had some free time. Qin Tianji followed the chicken demon saint to the valley entrance. Not only them, but the rest of the people came too. The wood incarnation put down the last piece of medium-grade spirit stone, and the storage bag was empty. The Dozhuan Xinyi formation was like this. There was no limit on spirit stones. The more spirit stones there were, the more changes there would be when the formation was activated. The formation is complete. As the wood incarnation's eyes condensed, he whispered, and at the same time, he pinched a formation formula in his hand, and countless lights lit up from the valley. But before even a breath, they all disappeared again, silently. All the demon kings cast admiring eyes. As demon cultivators, and after surviving the demon saints' calamity, they all chose to continue to practice demon bodies. Their spiritual perception and instinct told them that this formation contained great energy. Looking at Qin Tianji again, his face was also full of shock. He knew that Mu Huashan was invited to Jiden sect because of the formation, but he never knew that Mu Huashan's attainments in the art of formation were so strong. So strong. Even he felt the terrifying aura of those brilliances just now. This boy is more than qualified to be my partner. Finally it's done. Mu Huashan showed a look of relief. He had been setting up the formation for 7 consecutive days, and his hard work was not in vain. But as for whether this formation can really be used, it depends on whether Sun Qiniang can find Long Wu. By then, the 12 tribes of demon cultivators will return to their positions, and even he dare not imagine how powerful this formation will be. Zhu Yun. At this time, Hu Chong came forward with a smile, stroked his white beard, and said with a smile, "Everything is almost ready. I plan to go out with everyone to collect some spiritual medicine." When he first came, the Wood Incarnation knew that Medicine King Valley made a living from spiritual medicine. Whether it was what Hu Chong needed to practice medicine or the cultivation of a group of demon saints, it was an indispensable resource. He also smiled and nodded, and then looked at Qin Tianji. The chicken demon saint understood what the Wood Incarnation meant, frowned, and said, "Zhu Xian, Xiaoji's strength is good, but it's still a little low. After all, he is only in the nascent soul stage. I'm afraid that bringing him will drag us down." Niu Gang grinned and said, "Yes, it's not that we don't want to bring him, it's just that he is too weak." The demon cultivators all meant this, and Qin Tianji's mouth twitched when he heard it. "I am weak? Who is weak after all? I am in the tribulation stage." It's a pity that he didn't say a word. If it was before, he might not be able to control himself, but now the Wood Incarnation formation has just been completed, he can figure it out with his toes. If he violates the agreement with the Wood Incarnation, he might use himself to start the battle for the formation. Fortunately, the Wood Incarnation wanted to get rid of Qin Tianji, so he smiled and said, "My fellow Taoist is too inexperienced. It's okay. I'll go out with you to broaden my horizons. But don't go too far." As he spoke, he winked at Qin Tianji. Qin Tianji understood. This is asking him to help find medicine. "Good fellow, I am a great man who has cultivated to the stage of crossing the tribulation, and I was used as a treasure hunting rat by you.